Hello everybody, this is Yoko's Anime Reactions, and this is going to be my review for To Your Eternity episodes 7 and 8. As of this recording, I've gotten all of Season 1 done, but I have not started Season 2. I'm still kind of debating on whether to start Season 2 because I really do not want to worry about... Oh, fuck. I just realized that my ring's gone. I gotta find it. Anyway, these two episodes we get introduced to Gugu and Reen, I think is what her name is. And he and his brother were saving money so they could buy themselves a place to live eventually. Somebody ended up stealing their money at some point, and after that, not long after that, his brother ran off with the money, thinking, I'm guessing, to seek his fortune or something like that. So Gugu was trying to work to gain money all by himself. He ended up running into a girl who was missing her dog, and he actually found the dog, and we come to find out that her name is Reen, and he ends up getting a crush on her. And while he's out and about, a guy who was pulling gigantic logs on a cart, some of the logs came loose, and one of the logs came loose, and thankfully he was able to catch it before it did any damage. But when he went to go and get some rope to tie it down and left Gugu to hold it, yeah, it kept on going and would have hit Reen, who was at the bottom of the hill, but he pushed her out of the way and ended up falling off the cliff that they were standing on, or that she was standing on, and landed. The bad thing is that normally you would be able to possibly survive that, but the log in question ended up landing on him, on his face. I don't know, I thought for a second it had crushed his head, because usually that's what you would expect would happen. But no, apparently he had somehow survived that, and survived his injuries thanks to the booze man guy finding him and taking care of his injuries. However, I'm guessing at the start of this, his injuries were not completely healed. And when he saw what he looked like, we never get to see what he looked like under the dang mask, even later on. But, yeah, apparently he looks really disfigured. And he ends up wearing a lizard head mask to cover his face so nobody will know it's him, what he looks like. And when Fushi and... dang it, what was her name? Pioran, I think it's what her name was. Anyway, when they get there, obviously Fushi is still learning stuff. And we come to find out that if Fushi takes damage to something, he can create it. Like, for example, if someone cuts his hand with a knife, he can create the knife. However, there is a limit to this where he cannot create things like fire. Because they tried to see if it would work, and he burned himself with the fire, but he only created the stick that was on the fire, so... yeah, there's a limit to what Fushi can do. I mean, it would make sense. You don't want to make him completely overpowered. And he ends up, I guess, showing Gugu at some point what he can change into. And at some point, Gugu ends up thinking of him as a brother. A little brother. Anyway, a little bit later, Reen ends up showing up, claiming, that she's got a very bad wound. And I'm like, what's the wound? And we see it, and it's a teeny tiny little wound. It's like a little scratch or something that would have a scar. Good lord. She acts like it was something really bad, and I'm like, lady, it is not bad. Not compared to what Gugu went through. And she ends up taking an immediate shine to Fushi, but obviously Fushi has no concept of that sort of thing. And at some point, Gugu decides that he's had enough of this, especially when he finds out that apparently when the booze man found him and was treating his injuries, he inserted an artificial organ inside his stomach that allows him to get alcohol out of it. And obviously Gugu's not happy about this. I mean, who would be happy about this? And he runs off because of this and tries to get the alcohol out, tries to get it out in many different ways, but obviously he can't. And yeah, Fushi ends up finding him at some point. But before that, he ends up trying to go and do farm work again, like he did before when he was with his brother. And the guy he worked for before, took him in, helped him get some work going, get some money, and even invited him over for dinner. But his kids were not too happy about this, especially when they saw what was under that mask. And I think in the oldest kid, I don't know if it was the oldest kid, the youngest kid, whatever, but he went up to Gugu later and told him, yeah, you gotta leave. You're not welcome here anymore. I'm like, dude, you're not the one in charge. Your father is. If your father wants him to stay, he can stay. It's not your decision. But Gugu gets upset about this and ends up leaving. Anyway, and this is after he had decided that he didn't care what he looked like and he started walking around without the mask. And obviously, you can guess that people saw his face and were freaking out, claiming him to be a monster. But I'm like, we don't even know what he looks like. We never got to see what he looks like. All we saw was what it looked black under here, and it looked like a bulging eye, but that's it. That's all we saw. And like I said, Fushi ends up finding him later. And, however, before that, he ends up running into his brother. He found his brother sleeping in an alleyway, very thin, and decides to give his brother the ring that Rain had given him long ago before the accident, so he could get some money and get some food. And like I said, Fushi ends up finding him and saving him from some jerks. And, however, the knockers end up popping up again. And yes, that's actually what they're called. So, yeah. Wait a minute, was that, I don't remember if that was... I think that was the same episode. I think Rain ended up finding him with Fushi and demanded to know what he looked like under the mask, but obviously he wasn't going to show her. And she essentially told them that, yeah, she's run away from home before because she's essentially being smothered by her parents. She doesn't get to make any kind of decisions, even on what kind of clothes she wears, because she likes green, but they claim that, no, she likes purple, but they put her in green clothes all the time because they claim it looks better on her. I'm like, let her pick her clothes at least. Let her walk around outside. Give her some freedom, because that's why she's running away. I mean, who wouldn't? Who would want to be smothered like that? Anyway, one of the maids or whatever ends up finding them, and that's when the whole thing ended up happening, and Rain ran off again, and Fushi ended up transforming into March to, trick the maid into taking her away, claiming, that she's got an injury, and that's when the knockers showed up. Anyway, I'll get to work on everything, and I'll see you guys next time.